Allow your awareness to settle softly now into the tender, trembling space where the ego dwells, the fragile, flickering construct of self that has, for so long, held center stage in your experience, a delicate castle of identity built upon the shifting sands of thought and feeling. Sense the quiet trembling beneath the walls, the subtle quiver of fear that arises at the mere suggestion of its inevitable unraveling, the profound resistance to the thought of dissolution, as if the ego's very survival depended on its endless, exhausting performance of separateness. You have known this presence intimately, the steady hum of I am that echoes through every corner of your mind, declaring boundaries, assigning roles, and weaving the intricate tapestry of me and mine that has, for so long, been mistaken for your true self. But notice now the gentle, inevitable truth that the ego's greatest fear is not the loss of power, not the fading of influence, but the silent, terrifying prospect of its own disappearance. The moment when the carefully constructed identity is tenderly, finally laid down, and the vast unknown of pure being silently, patiently awaits. Feel how this fear has shaped so much of your inner landscape, how it has cast shadows of anxiety and clinging, how it has whispered endless doubts and protective stories to keep itself alive. Like a flickering candle afraid of the dark, it cannot hold at bay. And yet, as you breathe into this trembling awareness, allow yourself the exquisite grace to lean into the soft dissolution that is already quietly unfolding beneath the surface of resistance. There is no need to hasten or force this process. Instead, invite a spacious curiosity to arise, a gentle witnessing that cradles the ego's trembling without judgment or rush. Imagine the ego not as a tyrant to be conquered, but as a fragile child who fears being left alone, who clings tightly to the known shapes of identity simply because the unknown feels like an endless abyss. And as you witness this tender child, recognize that what it fears most is the very thing that will bring you the deepest, most unshakable freedom. Begin to sense that the ego's dissolution is not a tragic loss, but a miraculous unburdening, a sacred surrender to a truth far grander than any personal story or self-image. As the ego gently lets go of its desperate grip, a profound space opens, a vast, luminous expanse that is not empty or hollow, but radiant with the fullness of presence itself. This is not the void of absence, but the fertile ground of all existence, the boundless ocean in which every wave of identity arises and falls away, endlessly, effortlessly. Allow your awareness to rest here, in this spacious fullness where the boundaries between self and other, subject and object, begin to dissolve like morning mist under the sun's tender gaze. Feel the exquisite peace that arises when the mind's ceaseless chatter quiets, when the relentless questioning of "who am I?" ceases to grasp for answers, and instead simply rests in the unnameable presence that is always already here. There is a profound relief in realizing that the I you have known, the ego, with its fears and desires, its stories and defenses, is not the essence of who you are. It is a passing form, a shape-shifting pattern of thought and sensation, a temporary constellation in the infinite sky of consciousness. And when this form gracefully fades, what remains is not absence, but a luminous presence, a radiant fullness that cannot be diminished because it has no edges, no limits, no need to defend or define itself. This presence is the silent witness, the unchanging awareness that underlies every experience, the eternal ground upon which all phenomena arise and dissolve. Like the clear sky that holds the drifting clouds without attachment, you are the vast openness that embraces every passing thought, emotion, and sensation without losing yourself. Notice how this spacious presence carries a peace that surpasses all understanding, a quiet, profound stillness that is not dependent on circumstances, not shaken by the rise and fall of the ego's dramas, but steady and unmovable like a mountain cloaked in mist. This peace is not something to be attained or grasped. It is the natural state of your true nature, always available beneath the layers of identification and distraction. You may feel a softening inside as the relentless need to control, to protect, to prove yourself gently loosens its grip, and you begin to taste the sweetness of surrender, not as defeat, but as the highest form of victory. The ego's death is the birth of this freedom, the flowering of a presence that knows itself as boundless, timeless, and whole. As you rest here in this expansive presence, allow yourself to notice the subtle shifts in perception that arise when the ego's veil begins to lift. The world itself may seem different, not less real, but more vivid, more alive, more intimately connected to the pulse of your own being. Colors may seem brighter, sounds more resonant, sensations more profound, as if the very fabric of existence is humming with a newfound clarity. This is the radiant aliveness of presence, the luminous heartbeat of the universe recognizing itself in you. You are no longer a fragmented I struggling to hold onto a fragile identity. You are the seamless flow of consciousness itself, the infinite dance of light and shadow that creates and dissolves all things with effortless grace. Let yourself be carried by this current of awakening, trusting the natural unfolding of the process without hurry or resistance. The ego's death is not a violent event, but a gentle, inevitable transformation, like the quiet falling of autumn leaves that reveals the bare branches beneath, preparing the tree for the rich renewal of spring. There is a sacredness in this letting go, a profound honoring of the cycles of birth, death, and rebirth that pulse through all life. And in this sacred space, you begin to glimpse the truth that what remains when the ego falls away is not a void to be feared, but a fullness to be embraced, a fullness that has always been here, patiently awaiting your return to your own boundless, radiant nature. Breathe deeply into this knowing, allowing it to permeate every cell, every fiber of your being. Feel the soft, tender liberation that arises from no longer needing to defend or fabricate a separate self, from no longer having to carry the weight of identity as a burden. You are free, free to simply be, free to rest in the profound peace that arises when the ego's illusions quietly dissolve like mist at dawn. This is the birth of nothing, not as absence, but as the glorious fullness of all that is, the infinite presence that lovingly cradles the entire universe within its silent embrace. And so, with gentle awareness, continue to rest here in this unfolding mystery, allowing the ego's last whispers of fear to be held with kindness as they dissolve into the vast, radiant nothingness that is your true home. An endless ocean of presence, deeper than any thought, wider than any horizon, and infinitely more beautiful than any story the mind could ever weave. Allow your awareness now to gently turn toward the subtle, trembling shadow that the ego casts, the quiet, insistent whisper of its own fragility, the trembling heartbeat beneath its bold proclamations, the softest, most ancient fear that it will dissolve, evaporate, and vanish into the boundless unknown. Feel how the ego clings like a fragile, flickering flame in a vast, infinite darkness, desperate to preserve its shape, its story, its separate identity, as if survival itself depends upon the solidity of its walls. Yet as you breathe into this delicate fear, you begin to sense the gentle unraveling, the slow loosening of the tightly woven threads that have bound you to a self that seems small, isolated, and endlessly striving. This unraveling is not a loss, but a soft, tender shedding of the skin of separation, a graceful surrender into the profound mystery that lies beyond the ego's trembling grasp. Notice how the space that opens in this surrender is not a hollow void, but a vast, radiant fullness, a luminous expanse that quietly holds all that ever was and is, without resistance or demand. Feel yourself sinking deeper into this boundless fullness, this immeasurable ocean of presence that is not confined by form, name, or story. The ego's death is not a tragic ending, but a magnificent birth. A birth of nothing yet everything at once. It is the paradox of the infinite unfolding within the finite, the eternal revealing itself in the momentary breath. Allow yourself to rest here, in this exquisite space where the illusion of self gently dissolves like morning mist, revealing the brilliant sun that was never truly hidden, only veiled by the fragile shadows of identification. This sun is your true nature, radiant and unchanging, a light that does not flicker or fade because it is not a thing but the very essence of being itself. As the ego falls away, you realize with breathtaking clarity that what remains is not a void to be feared, but a fullness to be embraced. A fullness that holds no edge, no boundary, no limitation, only the infinite embrace of what is. Notice how this fullness carries a peace so deep and profound that it surpasses all understanding, a peace that does not depend on circumstances, thoughts, or emotions, but arises effortlessly from the very ground of your being. It is a peace that gently cradles every moment, every breath, every sensation, holding them tenderly without judgment or resistance. This peace is the natural state beneath the restless waves of the mind, the silent heart that beats beneath the noise of identity. Feel how it quietly expands within you, a soft, endless sky that welcomes all storms and calms alike, untouched by the passing weather of experience. You do not have to chase this peace. It is always here, patiently waiting beneath the fragile constructs of ego, inviting you to rest in its unconditional embrace. As you rest in this peace, allow yourself to witness the subtle dance between the fading ego and the rising fullness. The ego in its final breaths may resist, may grasp for meaning or existence, but you hold a steady, compassionate gaze upon it, knowing that its dissolution is not a loss, but a profound liberation. Imagine the ego as a sandcastle built at the edge of the vast ocean, beautiful, intricate, yet inevitably destined to be reclaimed by the tides. Watch as the waves gently wash over the castle, dissolving its walls, its towers, its battlements, not with violence but with tender inevitability. In this tender dissolution, the sand returns to the earth, the water to the sea, and what remains is the vast, unbroken shore, the endless horizon where earth and water meet without struggle or separation. You are that shore, that horizon, that vast meeting place where all distinctions dissolve into the seamless unity of presence. Feel the exquisite freedom that arises when the ego's death no longer feels like a threat, but a profound invitation to awaken fully to the boundless reality that has always been here, behind the veil of I and mine. This freedom is not a fleeting escape, but a deep, enduring liberation that frees you from the chains of identity, from the endless stories of limitation and lack. It is the freedom to simply be, without effort, without agenda, without the need to prove or defend. In this freedom, the weight of separation falls away, and you rest in the effortless knowing that you are not a separate self, navigating a hostile world, but the very presence in which all worlds arise and dissolve. This presence is neither here nor there. It is everywhere and nowhere, the silent witness to all that is, the unshakable ground of your being. Allow this knowing to gently permeate every cell of your body, every corner of your mind, every whisper of your heart. Feel how the birth of nothing is simultaneously the birth of everything, the infinite, radiant fullness that you have always been beneath the transient mask of ego. This fullness is a vast, silent symphony, a cosmic dance that unfolds without beginning or end, without cause or effect, simply because it is. You are invited now to move beyond the fragile identity that once seemed so necessary, to embrace the glorious mystery of your true nature, a nature that is whole, complete, and profoundly free. In this embrace, the illusion of lack dissolves completely, replaced by a luminous abundance that cannot be measured or contained, only known in the quiet depths of presence. Breathe deeply into this spacious freedom and notice how the mind, once restless and grasping, now softens into a gentle, curious witness. Thoughts may arise as waves upon the ocean, but they no longer define or disturb the vast stillness beneath. You are the ocean itself, limitless, deep, and serene, holding all ripples with a tender, unshakable calm. This calm is the peace that surpasses understanding, the sacred silence that sings beneath all names and forms. It is the quiet song of your true self, the infinite radiance that shines through every moment, inviting you to rest fully in the exquisite simplicity of just being. Here, the death of the ego is not an end, but a luminous transformation, a sacred unfolding into the boundless embrace of nothingness. That is, paradoxically, the fullest everything. Let yourself dissolve now, not with fear or resistance, but with the gentle joy of coming home. Home to the ineffable, unchanging presence that has always been your truest self. Feel the exquisite relief that comes from releasing the desperate need to hold onto a separate identity. The soft surrender that opens you to the infinite ocean of being that flows through you and as you. There is no longer a you to protect, no fragile self to defend, only the vast, radiant presence that is free to move, breathe, and expand without limitation. This is the profound peace that surpasses all understanding, the gentle birth of nothing that is the eternal fullness of all that ever was, is, and will be. Rest here now, cradled in this timeless embrace, knowing that you are infinitely held, deeply loved, and beautifully free.